When I finally realized I was in trouble, after losing 80 pounds, I went and bought lamb chops and devoured them. Ex-vegans, why did you start eating meat again? I was traveling in Africa. This part of the trip happened to be in Zambia, not that the specific location really matters for the point of the story, and stayed in a small village off the beaten track. I had just arrived, and as the matriarch of my host family was showing me to my room, and helping me get settled in, her boys were out back slaughtering a goat for me. I couldn't turn down that meal, because that goat represented a substantial part of the family's assets. The whole experience made me realize that the social constructs around sharing food are far more important to me than what the food is. If someone is serving it, I will eat it with gratitude. I'm still as veggie as possible, but I moved to a country where it's 100% harder to be vegan, Japan. This is mostly due to not knowing a ton of Japanese and the fact that there is fish or meat in so many restaurant foods, and the culture here isn't like in America where you can ask for items to be removed or substitutions. Not that my Japanese ability would allow me to do that anyway. I still eat mostly vegetarian food and have done all my life. However, my husband was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis and celiac, which means that a high fiber/lower iron diet is not an option, and a lot of the substitutes aren't gluten-free. More often than not, when he has meat, I'll leave it or have the veggie equivalent, but there are just not enough hours in the day to make 2 separate lasagnas and sauce, etc. I was vegan for a year when I lived in a big city that had lots of inexpensive options for what one could eat. When I moved to a small town in beef country, the cost of good produce quadrupled, as did the cost of meat substitutes. I quickly learned that if I didn't eat whatever I could get my hands on, I would starve, so I started eating meat again. Some people say food deserts aren't real. They are. I was vegan for 3 years and had gone home to my community, which is tremendously poor. To have cold cuts and a bag of Doritos is a luxury. My aunt, who was going blind, made a family feast and everyone came, and she made a very traditional lamb stew. My heart broke when I thought of how much of her income she must have spent to make this possible, and felt like a completely entitled outsider when I told them I was vegan. They couldn't comprehend, when food is so hard to come by, why anyone would choose to not eat any protein available to keep from being hungry. Being vegan comes from the first world position of entitlement. It is a luxury to choose what you eat when so many eat whatever is available, not out of an ethical decision, but out of necessity. Got a genetic illness which makes me permanently anemic. My body only absorbs a tiny amount of iron from food, and that amount is burned pretty fast. Turns out it doesn't help to cut that tiny amount as well. Also, I didn't replace the meat, I just left it out, so I basically ate less food. The genetic mutation I have is called thalassemia, specific type, thalassemia beta intermedia. It's pretty common, especially in Mediterranean people. Usually only severe cases are properly diagnosed, since you can't really do more than iron infusions, blood transfusions, etc. Since some of you don't get it, iron supplements don't work. I get a lot of iron infusions. I need meat to get a lot of iron in me so I can absorb that minimal amount, because my doctor wants me to absorb as much as I can from food. I avoid processed meat. It's usually just a rare beef steak for me. I was using veganism as a guise for an eating disorder for well over a year. When I finally realized I was in trouble, after losing 80 pounds, I went and bought lamb chops and devoured them. Also therapy. I was on a diet for health reasons. When I was told I was allowed to eat meat again, my fridge started looking like a Mexican fever dream. I lost a lot of weight, to the point that people asked if I was okay. I was tired and had low energy. I ended up being anemic. I slowly ended up getting to a point that I started eating meat again. Your experience certainly reflects mine. We went vegan, and involved our doctor in an effort to ensure we were doing it right. We tried a vegan lifestyle many years ago when our kids still lived at home, and my husband and younger daughter thrived on it, while our older daughter and I struggled with vitamin deficiencies and borderline anemia, and we wanted to be certain we were doing it right this go around. We had blood work drawn to measure nutrient levels, cholesterol, blood sugar, etc. Then we charted our food for a year. 3 blood draws in, and Doc, who praised our menus, pulled the plug as my iron levels and some nutrients plummeted. I wanted this to work, as we were committed to eating for planetary health, and my hubby, an amateur chef, learned vegetarian cooking and made delicious meals. His body, as usual, thrived in veganism, mine absolutely did not. I keep reading people who say that going without animal products is healthful for everyone, but twice I tried, and, despite our diet being signed off on by medical experts, failed. Once my nutrient levels were restored, we began reducing animal products in our diet, and I am being monitored as we explore this option, but we just began in January, so I don't have results yet. Fairly stupid reason, because I broke up with my ex. I became a vegan to support her, and it felt weird eating meat while she was so against it. When the relationship was over, however, I no longer felt the need to support my ex in that way. Thus meat was back on the menu, boys. Not me, but my brother-in-law went vegan for a stretch. One of his pet causes is donating blood. As soon as he's able to, he's down at the blood clinic donating again. Anyway, on a vegan diet, his blood iron levels got too low to donate blood. So it was back to meat for him. But his daughter, my niece, is still vegan, and it's driving them nuts, because she'll only eat those vegan chicken nuggets, and they're getting pricey. Some months back I got into a friendly chat with a colleague about bread. She was telling me how I really need to pay more attention to what grains and seeds I eat. I shrugged and said I don't really eat bread, and if I do, white is fine. She warned me, very seriously, that I wouldn't be getting enough vitamin B and should change my diet ASAP. I took the advice seriously until later I remembered that she's vegan and I'm not. I eat plenty of meat for all my vitamin B needs. It's just a different food world. Not vegan but vegetarian. I was vegetarian for a good 4 years. Once I hit the 4-year mark, the energy was at an all-time low, my whole body felt weak, and the kicker, I had very, very frequent nosebleeds. It was so often I used to it for a while. Eventually, the nosebleeds came to be too much, and I started eating meat again. Then the nosebleeds stopped altogether. I haven't had a single nosebleed thus far. Mind you, I quit being vegetarian 2 years ago. Well, from an evolutionary perspective, humans ate what they had available to them. 'Cause they can. Fruits and vegetables were, in most parts of the world, seasonal or not very edible. I mean, natural cabbage is terrible, and so were most fruits, like a banana. Full of seeds. Whereas meat or fish were around all year, in more or less every single place on Earth, and that being super nutritional, the humans would obviously aim towards getting those, and eat a berry if they came across it. I became vegetarian specifically to fuel an active eating disorder. When I got on the path to recovery, I started eating meat again. I wanted to see if it made me sick. I've since eaten it here and there, but it's not often. I was vegan, food and otherwise, for near a decade. I'm planning on going back because I can honestly say that I've not been missing out. It's possible to organize anything these days. Oh, also. No, it didn't make me sick at all. Was vegetarian for 12 years. I had a mental breakdown after a death in the family, and instead of drinking or getting high, I went out and got a steak taco. Life is too short to miss out on tacos. I went from fat to extremely skinny and I hadn't strength. I wanted to have bigger muscles, so I started eating protein from veggies. It wasn't enough, I needed a lot per day to increase my muscles, so I started eating 2 eggs every day. And now, I eat 200 grams of meat 2 days a week just for easy protein. I still eat fruits and vegetables every day, I love it. The eggs and meat are just because I want muscles, lol. Not ex-vegan, but ex-vegetarian. I was a vegetarian back in 2011 to 2013 as I found myself eating a mostly plant-based diet with small amounts of fish or chicken. Was never a huge fan of red meat. I was warned by my doctor in 2012 that my protein levels were too low, so I increased my eggs, nuts, beans, and grains. Still wasn't enough though. I ended up being hospitalized in March of 2013 due to my blood pressure dropping way low, as well as my iron levels. I decided to slowly incorporate meat back into my diet, which ended up helping almost every aspect of my health. My nails were stronger, my hair grew faster / looked healthier, and I was better able to maintain muscle mass without struggling to actively keep up my protein levels. I still don't eat a ton of red meat, but man do I love a good, juicy steak on the occasion. I truly believe eating meat again saved my life. Kudos to those who are able to live a vegan / vegetarian lifestyle, but based on my experience, it's not for everyone. I was a vegetarian for like 17 years. I'm super anemic now and started eating chicken again last year. I still have a heavy vegetarian diet most days and don't eat a lot of chicken, but my anemia isn't as bad as it was. I have some guilt about it still, but I'm not damn near passing out every day anymore. I was also really bad at substituting for this diet since I was so young when I stopped meat and options weren't available like they are now. I didn't know about soy and estrogen and developed ovarian cysts that went away in 3 months from now. More soy too. Fun times. I became homeless and couldn't afford to be picky about my food. My life is stable now finance-wise, and I now eat a balanced diet with meat, try to eat a lot of veggies, and I sometimes eat fast food and candy, which I didn't do when I was vegan. The reason I became vegan was I thought meat is gross, and I still think it is, so I still don't eat it too excessively. I have other dietary concerns that take precedence over a moral prerogative, including several allergies that severely limit my diet. I can eat meat, so I do. I also aim for sustainable veganism, which means I don't limit myself with an unreasonable hardline stance as some do. If I go out for the sake of the rare social outing and my options are limited, I'll have the meat option. Simply reducing your meat intake is almost as good as cutting it, and I'm contributing to deforestation with my soy consumption anyway. Sustainable in this case simply means you're less likely to break and abandon the diet altogether by not giving yourself a simple pass/fail mentality. I had been vegetarian for 10 years. I became pregnant and was concerned that my baby wouldn't get all the nutrients she needed to develop in a healthy way. I still don't eat meat very often, and honestly the alternatives have come such a long way from when I tried my first veggie burger 20 years ago. Still veggie. I moved country and it was hard to eat anything but homemade, no takeaway, only restaurants were vegan only, which our friends and family didn't want to eat at. We ended up choosing to eat and cook vegan at home but not when out with others. Been back in England for 6 months, and no longer with my partner, but I still follow the same rule. It makes it easier to go out with friends/work/new people. Feel less guilty if I see something I want to try that has milk or egg in it. It makes it easier when I visit my parents, especially. I am 100% healthier since going vegan, though it does take more work to make sure I'm getting everything I need, so no issues with health. It's all down to convenience to others, and the occasional craving of something that contains dairy. Vegan for a year. Mom made the special ham recipe my great-grandmother used to make when she was still with us. Took a bite to taste. Ate the whole thing and said fuck that. And to everybody saying veganism made them weak and exhausted, go get checked for nutrient deficit. I was vegan for an entire year and I've never had any issue health-wise. Blood tests were all good. Yes, I was taking B12 and omega-3 supplements. I was born into an Indian vegetarian family and never ate meat or eggs for the first 2 decades of my life. Home-cooked nutritious food had me healthy, so I did not have the need to eat meat. Then I moved countries and it was impossible for me to home cook every day and have a busy job. So I reluctantly started eating meat. And I have never felt so good. I feel very energetic and healthy. I don't regret starting to eat meat and I absolutely love it. Sure, you have to know what you're doing, but some people's bodies just can't absorb plant-based nutrients as well. It's known as bioavailability, I believe. I am vegan and I have been for 3 years. I'm even a strength training athlete, but it does not work for everyone. If you want to try out veganism, get your blood tested beforehand, and then once or twice a year once you've made the switch. Was a vegetarian for about 1.5 years. I went vegan for about 6 months after watching some documentary. I love kimchi and tofu. Ate a lot of grains and pasta. I'd bring whole cooked red potatoes around and eat them like apples. Cooked a lot of vegan, Indian and Thai recipes. The whole experience did make me a better cook. But in the end, it was just too goddamn inconvenient. You have to put a lot of thought into your food, and a bunch of things have weird prep times, so I'd get home from class/studio at 8 p.m., do my dinner prep, and realize something has to soak or cook for an hour before it can be added to the recipe, which means it's now 8:30 p.m. and the earliest I'll be eating is 10 p.m., so I'd say fuck it and have a salad. Plus you've got to find all these weird alternatives to things, and they're only at the weird hippie market where everything costs 20% more. Went back to what I called barfly vegetarian, where I'd be vegetarian, and even then, lacto-ovo, because eggs for breakfast are convenient AF, Sunday through Thursday, and Friday and Saturday we'd go out and I'd usually eat meat for dinner or fourth meal from the kielbasa street cart. Left to my own devices, I still don't eat a lot of meat. I'd be perfectly fine going back to sweet potato tacos 3 nights/week, and these Beyond Burgers have changed the game up. When I had a work from home job, preparing and cooking was a lot easier. Had a job change, it was far more active and I no longer worked at home. I wasn't able to eat at work, and I didn't have time to prep and cook like I used to. Started getting fainting spells, feeling lethargic, and overall shitty. I was tired of every meal with other people devolving into an argument over ethics, because they wouldn't just let me eat my fucking food. I started dating my, now wife, and I didn't want her to think I was weird. Disagreements with the larger vegan movement over some ethical considerations. Number 1 was the big one. If you think vegans are insufferable, try being one. Don't even preach. Just exist. Shocking how many fucking nutritional experts come out of the woodwork. Every meal was exhausting. It was the most healthy I've been in the past 10 years. Transitioning back to a plant-based diet ATM because I've grown older to the point I no longer have that many fucks to give. Not vegan here, but I stopped eating meat a while back and went back to it. Last year I started to notice that when I ate meat I felt like I was going to die. My guts just hated me, and afterward, I was in the bathroom like crazy. Red meat, high-fat meat, pork, the chicken wasn't too bad but still had issues. I spoke to my cousin about it, she just found out she had Crohn's. Not having insurance, great insurance/funds at the time, doctor visits were out of the question. She told me to start eliminating foods from my diet and see what is triggering it. Found dairy products and meat were the culprits, unfortunately. Because I love dairy products and meat. Switched over to a vegetarian diet and immediately felt better. I ended up gaining weight, which was a bummer. Getting enough protein was an issue for me, but I was spending significantly less time in the bathroom and I also didn't feel like my insides were rioting. We go back and forth between meat and veggies. I've actually found a lot of the vegetarian meals I like more than the meat-based recipes. I hadn't eaten meat in a year and a half in college. One day I was hungover and looked out the window and saw McDonald's having a sale on Big Macs for 69 cents. I ate 5, puked, and never looked back. Disclaimer, I've gone from being omni to veggie, back to omni, back to veggie, and now vegan. This is over like 8 years or so. I stopped being vegetarian because I got really, really sick. Not from being vegetarian but from anxiety. I had such an intense and sustained period of anxiety I ended virtually up not eating for about 3 weeks. I was living on the water, glucose tablets, fruit juice as an attempt to get a vitamin and calories in me, and very very tiny bits of food. Like literally mouthfuls of food. Anything more than that and I would immediately throw up. I lost about 4.5 kilograms/10 pounds in this period. By the end of it, I was having really weird and strong food cravings. At one point all I wanted was microwave pizza. So I had microwave pizza and it was the first full meal I'd eaten in 3 weeks. A few days later I had a massive craving for KFC and I ended up demolishing most of a family bucket. Like it was legit one of the best meals of my life because it was the first time I'd felt hunger in weeks and it was exactly what I wanted. After that, I was so spooked I stopped being vegetarian because I needed a wider variety of foods to pick from. But I went back to being veggie about 3 years later when things got better, and then last year transitioned to veganism and I'm a lot happier and healthier as a result. When I went vegan for Lent last year, at the end of it was the longest I'd not had a stomach ache for. It would take a lot for me to stop being vegan at this point. If it ever got that bad again, if it was the only thing I knew I could keep down I'd have to consider it, but I hope I'm never in that situation. I wasn't vegan, but I was vegetarian for 12 to 13 years. Basically, I just got tired of it. Eating out was always a hassle because I either had to modify an existing menu item or get something plain that I've had a million times before. Cooking for me and my boyfriend just had an extra step of me trying to decide what protein or extra side I was going to have with my meal when he had meat already. Scouring ingredient lists became tedious. Basically, I just went back to eating meat because I was sick of making it harder for me to be able to try new things and go out to eat. I didn't really go vegetarian for the animals in the first place, it was kind of an afterthought. I never really loved meat, to begin with, so being vegetarian was almost second nature at first. But now that I re-gave myself the option to eat meat, I've been able to try a lot more different foods that I wouldn't have been able to. I'm a fake vegan for 8 years, I think I was fully vegan for 2 years, my wife is vegan and I have no issues only eating vegan at home. Dating her was the best, I saved a lot of money. When I moved to her place I started to actually buy vegan stuff and I spent actually the same amount of money. At home almost everything is vegan, My son loves eggs and ham and I really love fake cheese and weird vegan milk. The best part for me is that when I try a good steak at a party or something I'm genuinely happy for a long time, and that bad fish/chicken tender is the worst thing in the universe. BTW, I don't eat and I'm happy. My wife tries meat sometimes, but when she has a really good reason to do so I'm happy she is happy. My son is happy because no one touches his ham. Everything is great. My daughter likes liver and onions. My mom showed it to her and apparently is in the girl side of my family. My sister loves that shit also. The social part of eating is a lot better now for me at least, because at home we don't have a lot of meat and non-vegan stuff, only for the kids and they like things I dislike. Thank you for watching Reddit Space. Please subscribe if you love these Reddit stories.